Hello everyone and welcome to this week's chapter review of the Oden flashback. We start off with Gotti and Vito in Dressrosa on the cover page. I like how Gotti has his cannon arm covered up, because if he didn't that would scare a lot of people, I guess. And then Vito finds a man that's covered in kisses, and not just one man, but there seems to be several. And we know that this is a mark from Lola, because that's what Lola would do back in Thriller Bark. She would try and attack Absalom, or the people she was interested in, by kissing them or trying to kiss them. Now, the fact that she's going around kissing people makes me think that perhaps she's not married. You know, as a lot of fans speculated that she would be married to Lucky Roo by now. It doesn't seem like that's the case, or maybe she did get married to Lucky Roo, but it just didn't work out. Either way, I feel like her being single will probably play a major role if she happens to go to Elbaf at some point. You know, because of the whole Loki arranged marriage situation that we learned about from Big Mom. We start off with the capital being destroyed by that white boar, and there's a small little panel of Denjiro kind of being an Oden fanboy. And I just want to highlight how small Denjiro looks in that panel, standing next to Kinemon and Oden. Primarily because one of the traits that we've noticed thus far from the Scabbards is that they seem to be pretty tall. Now, Denjiro at this point is only 10 years old, but according to the wiki, Koshido, Zoro's master, is a little bit over 6 feet tall, which isn't short. I mean, it's not short in real life, but it's significantly shorter than Kinemon's height, which happens to be 6'8". So I think that's another clue from Oda, pointing towards the fact that Denjiro is in fact Koshido, Zoro's master. It's his height. Now, during the attack, there's this person waving a Japanese wand of swords called Onusa. They could also be called Gohei, but they're used during Shinto rituals, especially, they were used back during the Edo period, especially for purification purposes. And he also wears 3 candles on a crown, which is also a reference to a type of ritual that is called Ushi no Toki Mairi, which is translated as the Ox Hour Shrine Visit, which is a way of laying a curse upon a target. The boar's just straight up going crazy at this point, destroying the capital. It's actually eaten up a lot of people, and we find out that one of the people that it has eaten has been Otsuru. And this kind of serves as a way for us to find out that Kinemon actually really appreciated Tsuru and kind of had some feelings for her, because she was one of the few, if not the only person, that was kind to him. Now, this whole action sequence with Kinemon and then later Oden facing off against the boar is just absolutely filled with visual references to that scene in Punk Hazard when the Straw Hats face off against that dragon. Even the layout is the same, with the fire as the backdrop. Kinemon at one point appears to be stuck to the boar, just like Kinemon's legs were stuck on the dragon. Oden ends up cutting the boar in half, and the panel that we get when he does so is very reminiscent of the type of panel that we got back when Zoro cut the dragon. So I think it's very intentional that this scene echoes the Punk Hazard scene. They kind of rhyme with each other, because if you think about it, this is the first time that Kinemon, or rather, this is the scene that leads Kinemon to befriend Oden, much like the scene with the dragon is kind of like the scene that leads Kinemon to befriend Luffy. So then Oden shows up with the squealing little hog. And so he's prepping up his Nitoryu style, right? The two-sword style that he's famous for using. And if you look at the panel where he lands the attack, you can see that both of his swords are hockeyed up. And I really like the name of his attack, Paradise Falls. Because, the actual name is, the Japanese name is called Togen Shirataki. And Togen means paradise, while Shirataki means white waterfall. In fact, there are some Japanese noodles called shirataki because they resemble a white waterfall as you're eating them. But the reason for why I like the name of the attack is because it's very representative of the duality, the dichotomy of Enma with Ame no Habakiri. Because Ame no Habakiri is the sword of heavenly wings, so it has like a heavenly theme to it. So paradise, and then Enma, the sword of the underworld, you have the fall, paradise fall. And the giant boar's eye in that panel kind of has the same Rinnegan type of thing going on as Sunisha's eye did when Momonosuke instructed him to attack Jack. So I'm wondering if that means that there's some kind of implication of a connection between those two, aside from the fact that they're both pretty large animals. I mean, Sunisha technically I think should be larger, but they're both very, very big animals, and they're both animals of legend. I like how after the attack, Hyogoro's pretty much all right, boys, pack it up. Oden did his thing. Let's go home.
And Denjiro has like that Luffy face, that sparkling eye face, where he's like Sugoi whenever he looks at General Frankie in his mecha robot form or whatever, or when he's looking at meat, because it does look like Denjiro slobbering a little bit in that panel as well.
Now, before Oden leaves the capital to go to Hakumai to visit Yasui, as he's walking away from the capital, there's like a little box that says, by age 18, Oden had caused the Mountain God incident. Except he didn't cause it. And so it got me to think about the previous chapter where like all these things that the assistant was telling the Shogun, these crazy feats, right? And so because of the fact that it was actually Kinemon who caused this mess and then Oden stopped him from taking the blame, it kind of got me to think that, wait, did Oden actually like do the things that we found out that he actually did in the previous chapter, or was it actually him taking the blame for a bunch of stuff that he didn't do to help people out? I mean, it's only one translation that states that he actually caused the God Mountain incident, but if nothing else, this chapter I think is a pretty good reminder to us as readers that there's more than one side to like the legend or the story of anything.
So as you read in the comment, there was actually a correction made in the chronology of things, which actually unintentionally reveals something bigger, which is really cool. So I didn't know about this change until I read that comment, but it turns out that the flashback is said to be starting 41 years ago, not 39 years ago, as was originally shown, right? So instead of 39, it's 41 years ago. Now this is actually important. It's actually very huge because there's only one reason for why Oda would make that change. If you look at the timeline, we know for a fact that the Gods Valley incident happened 38 years ago, right? And this flashback is starting 41 years ago. So before it was 39, it was 1 year before the Gods Valley incident. Now it's actually 3 years before the Gods Valley incident. Now the reason for why it needs to be 3 years instead of 1 is because Oden is currently 18. And we know that he eventually becomes daimyo at the age of 20. So he needs 2 years to essentially prove his father wrong and to receive the title of daimyo because of his feats in Kuri. So there's no way that you can have Oden, you can't start this flashback 39 years ago and have Oden be involved in some way, shape, or form in the Gods Valley incident, because he would still be in Wano at that time, trying to change things for the better in Kuri. But if you make it 41 years, then everything matches up perfectly because you allow Oden to have enough time to gather the 9 red scabbards, become daimyo of Kuri, leave Wano, and then eventually be involved in some way, shape, or form in the Gods Valley incident with Roger, Garp, Whitebeard, Zebek, Big Mom, Kaido, all these people.
So long story short, we are pretty much guaranteed a scene in God's Valley during this flashback. Guaranteed. And given how this chapter ends with the revelation that Orochi was actually working under Yasui, and that, I mean, obviously he has to ascend to power with Kaido's help at some point, I think it's also safe to say that we will see how that relationship between Orochi and Kaido was formed in the first place. But again, Kaido is going to be at God's Valley. Oden saves the people of the capital from being digested by that wild boar, and then he receives a notice that disowns him and also exiles him at the same time. And we know that he's going to go to Kuri eventually to face off against Ashura Doji / Shutenmaru. And then, out of appreciation, both Kinemon and Denjiro decide to follow him. Now, something important that we learned back in chapter 943 is that Kinemon at one point, like during a flashback, the Scabbards essentially say that they all owe Oden a debt. In other words, in order for Oden to recruit the remaining Scabbards, he kind of needs to save them from something. Another thing that we might get from this flashback is hopefully we get to see some of the time that Oden spent under Whitebeard as the division commander. We also know that Izo has to join Whitebeard at some point, so maybe it's during that time where Izo decides to say, you know what, I'm not going back to Wano. I respect Whitebeard enough. I know Oden Sensei, you respected him as well, so I'm going to stay here with Pops. Maybe get some cameos of Marco, Vista, Jozu, Teach, and maybe even Thatch. That's going to do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Overall, I thought the chapter was average. Comment down below with your thoughts. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And have a good, happy Halloween. There's no chapter next week, but I will catch you next week with a new video. Take care. Bye.